Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praise for Allah, Lord of the worlds, and peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad, his companions, and all those who strive to follow in their footsteps. My dear viewers, brothers and sisters, welcome to another episode of Qur'an Science. My name is Sharif Attouni, and in this episode we'll be discussing the miraculous analogy done by the Holy Qur'an in Surah Al-An'am, verse 125, about the ascension to the sky. And for this we have with us a professor of geology, Dr. Zaghloul Al-Najjar. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show. I'd like also to introduce my dear brothers and guests, Zaghloul Karim and Mustafa Ismail. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show. Okay, before we go into a further explanation about the verse, we'd like to provide you with the verse first from Surah Al-An'am, verse 125. Watch this verse and stay tuned.
فمن يرد الله أن يهديه يشرح صدره للإسلام ومن يرد أن يضله يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا كأنما يصعد في السماء كذلك يجعل الله الرجس على الذين لا يؤمنون.
Whomever God wills to guide, He opens his breast to Islam, and whomever He allows to stray, He makes his chest narrow and constricted, as though he were climbing up to the sky. Thus shall God place the wrath on the unbelievers.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. You're watching Qur'an Science, and that was the verse from the verse 125 from Surah Al-An'am that we will be discussing in today's topic, the ascension to the sky. First, I'd like to know from my dear guests, first of all, Zabihullah, what is the meaning that you're getting behind this verse?
From this verse, I got that Allah, subhanallah, mentioned two kinds of herds, the believers' herd and the non-believers' herd, and compared the non-believers' herd with like ascension to the sky, like he feels very terrible, very difficult. And Allah mentioned this 14th century before, and now we can realize it when we
Climb
travel,
something, maybe.
climbing or travel by air to from one place to another.
Yes.
So we feel how terrible we're feeling.
Yes. Okay, and Mustafa?
SubhanAllah, when I read this verse and when I read another verse in the Quran, like وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا as well, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you the choice to choose between either faith or to be a non-believer.
Yes.
And back to the verse that we're talking about today, if you choose the right path, if you choose faith, subhanallah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make your life more comfortable. You know, as if you're talking and you're breathing normally. But if not, if you choose the other path, God forbid, then you'll be like a person climbing a mountain, going up in the sky, and you're not going to be able to breathe normally. That's what I get from.
Yes, I totally agree with you. This is also what I'm getting. It's more about aqidah. It's more about faith. This verse, but let's first ask our Dr. Zaghloul Al-Najjar. Are we thinking in the right way?
I begin by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and praising all His prophets and all His believers, and greeting you all in our Islamic way. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I think you are thinking the right way. There's nothing wrong with what has been said. But here I would like to add that man can live normally within the limit of 3 kilometers above sea level. If you exceed that limit, life becomes virtually impossible. And impossible because of the lack of oxygen, impossible because of the lowering of the pressure, the tremendous lowering of the pressure, You see, at 20 kilometers above sea level, you get only 10% of the pressure at sea level. Say 50 kilometers, you get 1/1,000 of the atmospheric pressure. So what will happen to somebody climbing in the sky without actual protection? He will start suffocating due to the lack of oxygen, due to the abundance of poisonous gases like hydrogen, helium, some other inert gases, you see. He will get actually the beginning of explosion of his body, because the gases within his body will start to expand due to the lowering of the pressure.
So just to explain this to the viewer, the pressure outside and pressure inside the
Yes,
body,
yeah.
when the pressure outside is lower than the inside, what happens is
much lower.
Exactly.
So actually the lungs will start to rupture. The cells will start to rupture. All the breathing system will start to break out completely. The circulatory system will start to rupture. The digestive system will start to rupture, because the body contains lots of gases, including nitrogen, about 1 liter of nitrogen in a human body. Once this expands, it can destroy the whole body.
Yes.
And amazingly enough, the verse comes in the context of giving a parallel, a simulation, you see. Allah says, فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Whoever Allah wills to guide, He opens his chest for accepting Islam. And here the word chest is really miraculous also, because chest in the Quran means the heart. You see, opens your heart. And people always thought that the heart is just a pump, to pump blood to the lungs to be purified and oxidized, and receive the oxidized blood from the lungs, and then pump it again to the rest of the organs of the body, particularly the brain, which if it lacks the blood supply for a few seconds,
Yes.
it will die completely.
So that's the organic thinking.
Organic thinking. But the Quran speaks about the heart as if it is a center of learning, a center of decision, a center of memory, a center of emotions and feelings, a center of taking actions, you see. يقول فإنها لا تعمى الأبصار ولكن تعمى القلوب التي في الصدور. It's not only the eyes that can go blind, but it's the hearts within the chest that can also go blind. You see, لهم قلوب لا يعقلون بها. They have hearts by which they cannot reason things, you see. And here really is a miracle that the Quran would mention that, because only very recently it has been discovered that the heart contains nerve cells more than what the brain contains. The heart has got a magnetic field several thousand times the magnetic field of the brain. It has got an electric field which is at least 200 times the electric field of the brain. And it has been proved that the heart sends more orders to the brain than it receives from the brain. So if the Quran mentions here the chest as if it is a center of decision making or decision taking, it's a miracle by itself. فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Whoever Allah wills to guide to the right path, He opens his chest for accepting Islam. وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ. And whoever Allah wills to lead astray, because Allah knows in His knowledge that He will never accept the guidance, so He leaves him to his own decisions, you see. He makes his chest narrowed and constricted, as if he is climbing into the sky. Nowadays we know that climbing into the sky without protection can lead to the total destruction of the human body, including, first of all, the constriction and destruction of his breathing system. Yes. Who would have known this more than 14 centuries ago other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are phases actually when you're ascending, phases of destruction. Can you tell us about the phases of destruction in the human body?
You see, first of all, as I said, one can rise up to 3 kilometers safely without having lots of damage.
3 kilometers, but scientists said that it could reach up to maybe 5 or 6 and
no, man can live up to 3 kilometers above sea level.
Okay.
But after that, life becomes virtually impossible.
Okay.
Why impossible? Due to lack of pressure, different temperatures, abundance of poisonous gases, the rapid variation, you see, because you go from very low temperatures to very high temperatures. You see, you go from something below zero, you see, to 500 degrees centigrade, to 2000 degrees centigrade. Of course, nobody can withstand that.
Of course not.
But the verse speaks particularly about what happens physically as you start exceeding that limit, you see. The first thing that happens to you is that the gases within the body will start to expand. The voids within the body will start to expand. And this expansion can cause tremendous pain. You see, imagine the cells in your lungs, the lungs of whoever is climbing is rupturing, you see, and you are feeling that. The blood vessels are rupturing, and he is feeling that. You see, the lungs are constricted due to the lack of oxygen, and he is feeling that, you see. So the verse comes in the context of giving an example, a parallel, yet it remains scientifically absolutely correct. Nowadays we have what we call the medicine of aviation, the pilot's medicine, you see. And they say there are two main diseases. The first disease they call hypoxia, which is the lack of oxygen. And the second one is dysbarism, the loss of pressure, the drop in pressure, you see. And these two reasons can cause the human body to be completely destroyed.
All right, let's now move, before we go into further elaboration and further explanation of the verse, and we open up for questions for our dear guests, we'll move for a very short break and return back. So stay tuned.
Amazing stories.
The stories of the Qur'an, as well as the stories that were told to us by our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, are not fairy tales. They are not stories that were made up to convince us of something. They are true stories that actually happened. They said in the masjid, the Prophet ﷺ is talking. They said, Subhanallah, baqaratun takallam. They said, Subhanallah, a cow that speaks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this universe, my dear brothers and sisters, in such a beautiful way that everything is balanced, that every creature has a specific function, that they do not go outside of that frame. See, subhanallah, how the Prophet ﷺ is telling us about the story that happened before us. And this reminds us of the fact that Islam is a universal religion.
In this program, we will know about peoples from different times and places whose stories were mentioned in the Islamic tradition. All of this with Sheikh Lutfi will relate their stories and extract the lessons and wisdom behind them.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. You're watching Qur'an Science, and this episode is about the ascension to the sky. We'll start now with the questions from Mustafa Ismail.
Assalamu alaikum. Just from reading the verse, Professor, there's something that I'm not fully understanding. It says, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to guide the person, He'll make his chest narrow like that. Then in another verse, previous verse in Surah Al-Shams, as if Allah is giving the choice to the human being right now to choose. So in one verse it says the person will choose the guiding, to be guided in the right path or the wrong path. In this verse it says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the one Almighty that will guide this or that.
Very good question.
Yes, thank you.
You see, first of all, we have to admit the fact that Allah's knowledge is encompassing. Allah knows everything. Allah has laid down the time and the space as limits for His creation. But these do not limit the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah knows the past, the present, and the future. To Him, all are present, actually. You see, so He knows everything. So if He knows that somebody will never accept the guidance, so He leaves him to his decision. He leaves his teacher, does not help him. But if Allah knows that any one of us is eager to know the truth and is taking the very first step, Allah will help him to know that. And that's why the verse says, whoever فَمَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ, whoever Allah wills to guide, He wills to guide because He has the will to be guided. You see, فَمَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Whoever Allah wills to guide, He will open his chest and make it broad, wide broad, you see, or broad and wide to accept Islam. وَمَن يُرِدْ أَن يُضِلَّهُ, Allah does not like to misguide anybody. But if He knows that somebody is misguided and no advice can do anything with him, He will leave him to his misguidance. But Allah does not misguide anybody. Allah likes everybody to be rightly guided. So this is part of the admittance that Allah's knowledge is encompassing everything. And if Allah knows in someone that he will never be guided, he is adamant to be misguided, he will never listen, he will never obey, He leaves him to his misguidance.
So the Quran explains itself here.
Yes.
Like one verse explains the other.
Yes, indeed.
That's part of the way of explanation.
That's why Allah says in many verses, لا إكراه في الدين.
No.
لكم دينكم ولي دين. فمن شاء فليؤمن ومن شاء فليكفر. And parts of the human dignity is that Allah leaves everybody to his free will, to choose through his free will. And that's why this worldly life is a life for testing, a life for examining everybody, you see. And you cannot be tested or examined if you don't have your free will. So Allah has left that free will to everybody. Do whatever you like. He has guided us. He has sent the messengers and the prophets. He has revealed His books, and He left the decision to you. So, and He knows who will be guided and who will be misguided. But Allah does not misguide anybody.
Okay, now let's move to Zaghloul. Your questions?
Yeah, my question is that Allah mentioned in this verse that our hearts feels very terrible, but when we climb a mountain or we ascension to the sky or travel through airplanes, we feel that our ear have pains.
Yes.
Most
The pressure.
The pressure. Most people sometimes bleeding. So
Yes.
like what?
This is part of it, actually, because you see the pressure inside your body is much higher than the pressure high up in the sky. You see, although they try to maintain the pressure within the plane as much as they can, but they cannot bring it to the norm, and that's why then your ear feels the outgoing of some of the gases, and it can actually affect the two ears, can affect your nose, you see.
Okay.
And one can feel that. Sometimes they are bleeding, you see, from their noses or their ears, just going into the plane. And this plane is not more than 10 kilometers, you see. So what about probably 200-300 kilometers or so?
Yes.
It can make the whole body seriously affected.
Ascending from the earth, moving into the different layers and levels of the earth atmosphere.
Yes.
We need to know more about the earth atmosphere itself. As I understand, the ozone layer is in the middle, and this is something that a lot of people are speaking about.
Yes.
So can you please explain to the viewers
You see,
what
the ozone layer is a layer at a distance of 25 to 30 kilometers above sea level. It is a layer which Allah has created as a means of protection for life on that planet against particularly ultraviolet radiation. Ultraviolet radiation comes with the solar radiation, and the Earth needs actually a very small fraction of this ultraviolet rays for life in general. But if this fraction increases a little bit, it becomes a very damaging factor. It can lead to skin cancer, it leads to serious eye diseases, it can burn plants and animals, it can cause fire in forests, you see. So ultraviolet radiation beyond a very, very, very small fraction can be seriously damaging to life on Earth. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this ozone layer, which is a very thin layer. It's not very thick, but it is highly needed for the protection of life on Earth. sadly enough, through pollution, man is gradually destroying this layer. And by the grace of Allah, the wind carries the pollutants to the two poles. And that's why the very first two areas that felt the danger of the what they call the ozone hole are the two pole region and the regions around them. Countries like South Africa, South America, Australia, New Zealand in the south are seriously suffering today because the immense quantity of pollutants, particularly what they call CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, you see, it can reduce the ozone layer to oxygen. Because ozone is the oxide of oxygen, O3, and oxygen is O2. If you reduce O3 to O2, you are bound to keep an area full of oxygen, but it can allow the penetration of the ultraviolet radiation, and this can be very damaging to life.
But this has nothing to do with emptiness in the sky or anything. It is something totally different.
You see, they call it the ozone hole.
Yes.
It's not a hole.
It's not a hole.
No, it's a hole in the sense that it does not have protection from ultraviolet radiation.
Yes.
But it's filled with oxygen. So you reduce O3 to O2. It's not a hole.
And the Creator, subhanahu wa ta'ala, maybe it was a thin layer to avoid, to make people think of before destructing land. Definitely. And causing floods.
You see, Allah has made it a thin layer so that people can realize the danger of pollutants. You see, don't play around with the construction of the firmament which Allah has established.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have another question. Professor, why some people are affecting more than others? For example, I have my own experience with my 4 friends. We climbed the mountains, we reached to the peak. My 3 friends, their legs started vibrating.
Yes.
But I wasn't infected that much.
Yes, because you see, indeed, every single individual has got his unique characteristics. You see, every single individual. It's amazing really to find out that every single human being has got a genetic imprint that is unique for himself. You see, every single individual, although all human beings agree in the chemical composition of the DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, by which the chromosomes and the genes are written, you see, we agree in 99.9%. And we differ only in 0.1%. And look at the miracle of the Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. Out of this 0.1%, He gives every single human being, the billions who lived and died, the billions who inhabit the earth today, and the billions who will come after us until the end of this life, every single human being will have a genetic imprint, like his finger imprint, that's unique for himself. With this genetic imprint, you will find somebody will accept a certain environment, but another body will not accept it, you see. This environment will suit you, to not suit the other persons.
Yes. Could the ascension be a part of maybe healing or curing these diseases?
Wallahi, this is an attempt today. People are trying to use playing around with the genes, you see,
yes.
as a cure. But actually genes and chromosomes are tiny things, you see. If you start playing with them as if you are playing in the dark, and you may go right, you may go wrong quite easily. Yes. And any damage in the genetic code sometimes is unrepairable. You cannot repair it.
Yes.
You see.
Okay.
Unrepairable. Yeah.
Okay, one final question.
Just one thing I realize when every time I read this verse, subhanAllah, I remember watching a movie, that's simple, like for people going up on the mountain Everest, I believe, or something.
Yes.
And it was very difficult for them going up, like they're suffering, like they're trying to catch their breath, and it was really difficult. So subhanAllah, literally, the literally explanation of this.
Indeed, although Everest is less than 9 kilometers. It's 8,848 meters above sea level.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is nothing compared to the distances between the Earth and the Moon, for example, or the Earth and the Sun.
Around 50 million kilometers, yes.
Even when they reached to a certain level, exactly as you're saying,
course,
Professor,
of course.
they were getting shots of something, I think, to compensate the oxygen in their blood or something.
Yes.
So exactly, subhanAllah, that's
So it
exactly
just
how the
shows
verse
the
speaks
simple
about.
meaning of the easy path and the difficult path.
Indeed.
Okay, Professor of Geology, Zaghloul Al-Najjar, thank you very much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you. Mustafa Ismail and Zabihullah, thank you very much for being here. My dear viewers, this brings us to the end of this episode of Qur'an Science. See you in the next edition. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bum, 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 bum.